Take a deep breath. Deep conversations are starting.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Deep Conversations with Breath Hub. I have an amazing lady here with me, and we're going to dive deep into our conversation. The reason we named it Deep Conversation is because I'm someone who doesn't like chit-chat or conversations that are not deep enough. And we were just speaking about it with Zaz. I don't like introducing anyone. And the reason is because I think their own experience with themselves is much more valuable. That's why I don't want to introduce Zaz. I will ask her to introduce herself to you with her own experience with herself. Zaz, how would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks so much. I think it's also really respectful, isn't it, to give somebody that space to introduce themselves. So I'm Zarouhi Grumbar, and I'm a yoga teacher, London-based, but grown up in Trinidad and Tobago. And I've been teaching now yoga for 6 years, but I've been practicing since I was 25. So many, many years ago, 23 years now of practice. And I came before that from a fashion and marketing background. So lots of different places to draw inspiration from as well. And lots of travel in my life, living in different countries, traveling with my family. And until this space, which is not a full stop. It's just a part of the journey.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so the deep conversation starts with what we are observing, you and I are observing right now. I've been thinking for a long time, because I'm a breath worker and I'm also a meditation teacher. I'm a teacher, author, entrepreneur, and I've been teaching. I don't remember a time I wasn't teaching. I've been teaching like all my life. And I love deep conversations. I love deep relationships. I love to just look at things and just, be able to see what lies beyond everything. And when I look at life right now, and when I look at the history and human history and what we are right now, even though we're in the 21st century, I think there is still some slavery going on. And I would like to talk about that. And I don't mean it in traditional words, but I think like if somebody just wakes up in the morning and jumps out of bed and just goes into action and then stays in action, like works and comes home, watches TV and, active, and then goes to bed, I think that's just basic slavery.
It's an enslavement, absolutely, of our psyche. The French have a term that is metro boulot dodo. So it's, it's the tube, work, sleep, tube, work, sleep, tube, work, sleep, metro boulot dodo. And it's this constant cycle of doing. And I think that our society really seems to value most what appears to be very busy. So the more busy you are, the more you're perceived as being successful and valid in terms of our status in society. And it encourages us, exactly as you said, to get up, hit the ground running, and immediately start doing. People get out of bed, look at the phone straight away. They're doing emails immediately, probably while they're on the loo in the morning, and it's crazy. And we run out the door. And it is an enslavement because it doesn't allow the time that we need as human beings for rest and reflection and for self-nourishment.
And dive deep.
And to dive deep.
It's kind of
really
like
connect.
It's kind of like just going in the sea and not going in the sea really, but just sliding over it and just sliding past it. So it's kind of like, maybe it's important for people who are listening to us today to understand that the busier you are, the more shallow your life be, your relationships, how you view life and how you connect with life, how you connect with yourself, because the faster it is, the more you don't stop. It's kind of like I explain it in my trainings. We are human beings. We are not just humans. We are human beings. Yeah, and we are not beings either, because there are also some people who are too much lost in the being part and too much lost in the, but 21st century people are too much lost in humanity, like their human selves, and just staying in action the whole time. Like you said, people think being busy is the cool thing. I'm busy. But the thing is, then you lose your connection with your being, and that disconnection leads to all kinds of mental and psychological and physical diseases. The word dis-ease, as most people know, is just losing your ease. So the more we do, the more we stay in action, we lose our ease. And it's kind of like we lose it. And it literally looks like a little bit of a slavery, because you lose the governance ability. So I want to talk about that as well, because if you don't stop and meditate and do something to just, stop, think, dive in, just check your life, and you are not mindful and you can't govern your life. It's kind of like you lose your governance ability, and life goes on and life controls you instead of you governing your life, you mastering your life. So it's, if you want to master life, learn to stop.
Yeah, I think.
And breathe and
I think
stop.
the other thing is that by stopping and taking those moments of breathing and reconnecting, we also come back to our own intuition. And this is something that in modern life, we're guided to believe from as soon as you come into real consciousness, let's say, conscious learning and developing memories. So usually from the age of 3 onwards is when we develop memory. And at that point, all of a sudden, all your knowledge, we're told, seems to be directed externally. So you do what the teacher tells you, you read from books, you're encouraged. And those things are important, absolutely. But we're not encouraged to listen to our intuition, to continue to tune in, because we're just encouraged to listen to the noise that is external rather than to really focus on knowing and trusting our gut instincts.
Yeah,
babies
intuition.
are told, once they're a little bit older, past 3 years old, it's like, shh, don't cry, you've hurt yourself. It's okay, don't cry. Like, well, why not? Why not express yourself?
Why not?
I'm expressing myself, right? This is what I do. And we get older and we find that people then are burying their emotions, and the ability to tune into your intuition is like a muscle that needs to be flexed and work, and it becomes lazy, and it becomes
because
weak.
we also learn dysfunctional breathing habits, because a way to, it's kind of like when you ask me, like, how do people suppress their emotions, or how do they not feel or numb themselves? We do it by changing our breathing. So it's kind of like the more we learn not to feel, not to connect, and run, be on the go action, like performance. And there are even like loads of teachers teaching performance, but it's like now we come to the picture because we are women, and I'm going to come to that as well, because we are more connected with our intuition. It's kind of like when we go deep, we really go deep. It's like there is some difference between the meditation experience between men and women as well, because I've been doing some research on that. To come back
That's really interesting.
to come back to breathing, it's like if somebody wants to suppress their emotions, if somebody wants to numb themselves, what we do is the first thing, we disconnect from our breathing, we hold on, or we wait before the exhale, wait before the inhale, disconnect from the diaphragm, or do certain stuff like imbalanced breathing, whatever. And then we disconnect from ourselves. And the saddest thing is that is learned as habitual. It's like we learn
it's
breathing
learned and
habits.
Encouraged in a way as well. And we don't realize that the way that we breathe feeds those negative emotions.
Yeah.
And one of the things that, when I'm teaching, I always ask people at the very beginning, listen to your breath, because it's like your internal radio station that's going to tell you the weather forecast.
Yeah.
It tells you what's going on inside, because your breath can't lie to you.
Yeah.
If you stop and listen to that breathing, and again, this goes back to that constant rushing and not stopping to be aware of your breath. In that constant cycle, we're not aware maybe that the breath is like, that kind of that people do, this kind of
holding
stuttering
on
breath, of that holding on with this upper chest thoracic breathing, which means that, from a physiological level, you're not feeding enough oxygen into the
and the importance of exhale.
And
just
to exhale fully and release.
Yeah.
And then, then there's also the issues of people who have been taught to mouth breathe rather than nose breathe.
Yeah.
And the impacts that has physiologically, psychologically, emotionally, as well as
directly
physically.
into hypocapnia. Yeah, that's something to talk about in maybe our next podcast, because I wanna dive deep into the fact that this is not a coincidence that we are speaking about deep conversations and stopping and going within, and we both are women. I don't want to sound sexist, but there is a fact that men or women are different physiologically and psychologically and in many ways, because women have 60% feminine energy and 40% masculine energy. That's why our bodies can create children and a man's body doesn't create children. A man has 60% masculine energy and 40% feminine energy, which is kind of like why men are more structured and focused. Even their bodies are more dense. But we women, we are much more connected with the spiritual realm. So it's kind of like we're deeply connected with the psychology of things and spirituality and intuitions and intuitive, and kind of like when you look at the traditions, the old traditions, the women in the tribes were kind of like the whole tribes, especially the wise old woman, who could stay connected with themselves. Yeah. They were kind of like, the wise woman, the connection of, the earth to the heavens and the, earth to the God. It's like they were the goddesses, but not in a, because when you say goddess right now, it's kind of like people think of it as sexy and boobs and stuff. It's not that goddess. The goddess energy is kind of like this motherhood energy, the connection with nature and the divine.
And the holding of the histories and the traditions.
And it's kind of like in the 21st century, because we were taught like this performance, because how I see it is performance and action doesn't like screw up a man like it does a woman. It's very interesting. Like if you stay in action the whole time as a woman, you burn out. It's kind of like as a woman, if we don't learn to stop, I mean, I believe this is deep conversation, but I believe even the world peace depends on women again becoming goddesses, because it's like that divine, natural mother energy has love and understanding and intuitive. It's kind of like we can function beyond the whole structure of the world. And I think each and every individual can find their own ways of, living life when connected their intuition. Like there is no one way of living life, and that's being taught, and I'm very sad about that. Like
there isn't one size fits
like
all.
This just wake up at 5 o'clock, do this, like it just doesn't work for me, do this or do that. So it's like,
I think a lot of women, we have, I was writing in my journal about this actually, about the divine feminine, that it's almost as though, as you said, we have masculine and feminine traits. Within women, we have a dominance of feminine traits and feminine energy specifically. And it's almost as though in this world, the masculine traits tend to be perhaps celebrated a lot as well. And so we're encouraged to continue to bring those to the fore in quite a lot of aspects in our lives or in our work. And the feminine energy becomes more and more dormant, and it comes out at certain times. And it's like a pulsing energy that wants to exist, and it wants to be at play, and it wants to rise up and unfurl in us so that we can kind of flourish ourselves to become our fullest, truest beings, because you can't live as 40% of yourself. That's not possible.
Yeah.
You want to flourish and grow. And in a way, this masculine energy, I was envisaging it as almost a warrior that is saying, I want to protect you and keep you safe. But the word there is keep. I don't want to be kept. I want to be released. I want to be able to unfurl. So,
that's the basic, like purest form of sacred feminine energy.
Right.
Because the sacred feminine is everywhere, and it's everything. That's why
so
it's
I want the masculine warrior
energy.
to stand to one side, to allow, to fight with me, but not to stop me, not to create boundaries for me, so that my feminine energy continues to rise up.
So I think what you're also saying sounds like we need the structure of the masculine energy, because the masculine energy is all about, focus and structure and systems and discipline. Like, that's great,
it has its part.
Yeah, and that masculine energy created this whole system, like the whole technology and the economy and the money and everything. And that's brilliant. And yet, it's kind of like, if we really get stuck into it, especially as women, because I think men, like I said, I don't want to sound like sexist, but I've been married for a long time, and I have male friends, and I love men, and I really understand them and connect with that male energy as well. So it's kind of like, even if they want, they can't let go and fully like a woman. It's just not in their genetics.
It takes a lot of trust, because
it's like
feminine energy muscle.
It's not necessary. It's like I've been experiencing, we as women, not getting stuck with that system. If we can just learn to stop and understand that, like, even the word manifestation is a word that starts with man. If we can really understand that, I don't need to manifest. I don't need self-development. I don't need to improve. I am the goddess, shoot. I am the goddess, And when women truly understand who they are, and instead of trying to improve and trying to manifest, if they can just
allow it to happen,
dive into their deepest truth, it's just pure creative energy. It's the womb energy. It just starts shaping up our reality. It brings love and it brings inspiration.
Completely. And we
only when we stop.
We can't force a plant to grow. We can't force it to flower and to bear fruit. It has to be allowed to do that. It has to have the space and the nourishment that it needs to unfurl and to grow.
Yeah, and meditation and yoga and breathing, that's that space.
Yeah, and inner study and taking that time to be with yourself and reconnect to your breath, to your inner energy, to allow what is there to rise, rather than constantly trying to put a lid on things and press things down or artificially push things forward, is to instead surrender a little bit and allow what is there to naturally rise up to the surface.
Yeah, learn the importance of effortlessness.
Effortlessness, exactly. It's being in a state of grace, I think. And, in yoga, we talk about balancing grace with effort, strength with ease. And we need to have this, the yin and the yang, and we need to have that balance. Yeah. One of the things, sort of maybe for me, a favorite way for breathwork is actually to combine breathwork with movement and to really feel that expansion of the body with the breath to the very edges of myself.
The being and the human just merging into each other, and experience of a human being, which is almost like ecstasy.
It is.
I think for every woman and for every man, like experiencing the human and being and the yin and yang, and like we have more yin and they have more yang, or, it's like experiencing that energy just coming together and moving, with this movement and oceanic waves.
And this is also why I think that as a society, we need to slow down.
Or we will be forced to slow down.
As demonstrated 14 months ago, in these last, 16 months, that we have been forced to slow down, right?
Yeah, and it's kind of like hitting, and he said, I told you to stop.
Yeah.
And some people hasn't stopped yet.
So we're just going to make
there's going to be another wave. So there's going to be another wave until you learn it,
And what I'm finding so interesting right now, we were talking about this the other day, that because people are stopping more, because there are these brakes have been put on, whether it's isolation or lockdown or whatever, working from home or whatever it is, it has been hard for a lot of people. 100%. It's been very difficult. But change is a place of transformation.
What a blessing lockdown was.
What a blessing, actually. Yeah. We stopped and we spent time. We had time to prepare delicious food in the middle of our day rather than having some crummy sandwich from a takeout cafe. You know, we actually stop to nourish ourselves. We could rest in the middle of the day if we really needed to. We could do that. And that is so important because we talked a little bit about the history of rest, that when people in slavery days, where the masters were allowed in the heat of the day to go and rest, and the slaves, the workers, weren't allowed to rest.
Sure.
Because rest gives you dream time.
Yeah, that's why I say it's like slavery is right now happening in the world. And, for most people, it's still slavery because it was the masters, in the ancient times or, many years ago in the history. But now it's the whole economy.
It's the economy,
the economical system. Yeah. The whole system is the master. And there's still masters and there's still...
And still in certain like aristocratic circles where the servants have one way of living and rise very early in the morning, and even I was thinking that often with women, especially with the families, if you want time to yourself, you have to rise early, you have to force yourself up, you have to leave your rest behind in order to have time for yourself.
But this is really very important to understand. I mean, whoever is listening to us, we're saying something really, really, really important here. It's like, just waking up 5 o'clock in the morning and running, action. That is what slavery has been for many years in history, and it's still happening. Because if you go on and stay in action, and if you don't take time to think and dream and focus and stay connected with your mind, you cannot and you won't be able to govern life, and you won't be able to master your life and build something great. It's like the great minds are the thinking minds. It's like the great lives are the lives of people who stop and think. And stop and rest and dream. It's like,
and it's when we
do not allow the world, to lead you into slavery, because that's what's happening.
It is, it is to a degree. And I think a lot of the things that we're now accepting over these last year and a half as unacceptable in our lives, when we're seeing the rise of, our awareness of what is and isn't acceptable for people to be treated in a certain way, for there to be racism, for there to be prejudice, for there to be violence, domestic abuse. I know so many people who are, not because of domestic abuse, but leaving their partners, maybe going, hang on a minute, this time has given me time to process and reflect and see that perhaps these are not okay for me in my life.
You only see what's not working for your life when you stop and think and focus and just go within. It's like you can't change your life if you're on the go the whole time.
No, because you don't see. It's like hearing the noise the whole time.
I mean, the whole, like, I'm from the coaching industry as well. And like you've been from the, fashion industry. Like this whole thing of, go, action and action plans and setting goals. And you won't get there until you really connect with your intuition. It's like, I know a lot of people who are, coaches, and they're brilliant people. And just because they're not stopping, they're just on the go. It's like they're so caught up with their thing. It's like they don't have money because they earn money, but then they spend it because there's no awareness. Their relationships are not fine because they have relationships, but then it's too fast and it's too shallow and they don't get to experience it deeper, and then it's gone. It's like performance, act. It's really important to understand that that's maybe not the way of living.
No.
If you want to be a master,
No, but it feels like it's more of existing rather than living. For me, living is deep connection. That's living. It's really connecting. We're on the same deeply.
Page.
It's not living if we're, like you say, sliding over the surface of the water. That's not getting deep. That's not getting into the meat of things. That's not diving into the waters to understand really and to truly connect, because then when we truly connect with people, we see our souls reflected.
Yeah, and you
that's when
understand.
it's so beautiful.
Yeah, and you understand, you get it, you get the
And you
whole
feel
thing.
seen and you feel
Yeah.
heard, and you can hold space for someone else to be heard and to be seen.
Yeah.
And that is empowering as well, I think, for both sides.
Yeah, and also how I see it is, I think people, I mean, not stopping people, like giving people things to do the whole time. It's a brilliant idea economically for the whole system, because
Well,
it's
except that the workers burn out.
Yeah,
and
it's
and their ideas become processed again and again and again and again.
And it's like I see people like going to a lot of courses and reading loads of books. It's like if you took the time to just stop and meditate, you already have most of the information from your own life experience, what's in the books. Just because you're not diving deep, just because you're in shallow waters, you think you don't know.
Yeah.
And then you go to those courses and you go read those books and there's
But
books.
of course, we both deliver those courses in the books, so we still want to
I mean,
guide
it's
people
kind
a
of
little
like,
bit. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like for me, guiding people not into information, but into stopping. Like my thing has been teaching people their own capability. It's kind of like you are the book, you are the depth. You already have loads of information in your system. And once you really like tune in and connect and just stop and, be in your own rhythm, you see that you don't maybe need all those books, or maybe you don't need all those clothes, or maybe you don't need all those to-do lists.
Yeah, or that relationship or that thing.
Yeah, it's like we are, and the last thing is we are such a conditioned society that like I see a lot of people, that's why I ask the question why the whole time, especially to people who I mentor. It's like I don't coach people or mentor people with what they have. Like they say, I want this to happen, I want that to happen, I want this goal, that goal. It's like everybody wants to be rich, everybody wants to be successful, everybody wants a house and a car. And for me, it's very important to hear the answer of, but why exactly do you want it?
Of course.
Why do you want it in the first place? Like, what's in it for you? It's like,
what are you going
is
to
it your
feel?
value?
What
Is
are you
it
going to
your
actually
value?
feel?
Is it really your value? Is it your thing? Because we're all different. There is no such thing as everybody has to buy a house. Maybe, in this lifetime, you don't have a house. Maybe you just go out there and travel for the rest of your life. It's like,
Absolutely. I think it's about getting people to have that self-realization and knowing that all the potential lies within the individual. And it's about them understanding that they just have to delve in and find those answers, because it gets kind of submerged. It's a bit like, sort of having moss on a rock, and it's hiding the writing that's on the rock. You just need to peel off all that moss, peel off all the stuff that has been layered on top, so that we're, hopefully in our programs that we're guiding people to self-realization, so that they can realize
that's the whole mission. I mean, Thank you, Zaz. This was an amazing conversation, deep. Thank you very much. And if you're listening to us right now, and if you're interested in deep dive, if you're interested in living life deeply, the best way to do that is by starting breathwork. Just take time. Download BreathHub app and just try some sessions. Just stop and start breathing. And this whole platform was created for you guys to just, dive deep, connect with life on a deeper platform. Because I've been using breathwork for over 25 years, and I haven't met a more powerful tool ever to connect with myself. Instead of doing something else, getting a pill when you're anxious, just stop. Take a breath for a couple of minutes and it will be transformed. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I feel very much connected with you as well.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Have a great day. That was it for today. And see you in our next deep conversation with BreathHub.
Wonderful. Yay.